Jiang Ninian didn't force her, and his expression showed no sign of displeasure. Yun Yin asked, "Did young Master Yin promise Huang Jifa anything?" "No." Yun Yin was stunned. Perhaps Jiang Yin was tired. He reached out a hand towards her. "Lend a hand." Yun Yin still had questions for him, so she did as he asked, stepping forward to help him up. He was full of life and vigor in bed earlier. Now he's feigning weakness, she thought to herself. But as if he'd read her mind, Jiang Yin leaned against her after standing up. "All my strength was spent on you. Forgive me." Yun Yin's breath hitched. After helping Jiang Yin back to bed, she said, "Huang Jifa won't genuinely cooperate with the Yu family. His only purpose is to enter young Master Yan's circle." Jiang Yin's smile held a hint of mockery. Seeing Jiang Yin's reaction, Yun Yin understood completely. Her guess was indeed correct. Then she remembered the jade bracelet. Xiao Min was right. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? She thought for a moment. Young Master Yin had someone keeping an eye on me? Jiang Yin looked at her, his gaze deep and knowing. After a long moment, he said, "You're my woman. Even having someone watch you is normal." Yun Yin's chest tightened. What a ridiculous excuse. Watching someone usually implies two situations, perverse love or perverse hate. She felt Jiang Yin was more motivated by the latter. Young Master Yan's calculating steps are admirable. How so? That approving official is my classmate. Yun Yin asked with a knowing smile. Yes, but you two aren't close, Jiang Yin said dismissively. Understood. Young Master Yin used this excuse to put Huang Jifa at a disadvantage. For Huang Jifa to enter young Master Yan's circle, he'll definitely have to pay a heavy price in his cooperation with the Yu family. But Huang Jifa is cunning, and the bracelet is a second layer of insurance. Yun Yin's gaze was sharp and piercing as she stared at him. So, I don't understand young Master Yan's intention. If he hated her, why help her? Jiang Yin met her gaze. After a moment, he suddenly smiled. Just consider it. He deliberately paused. Yun Yin felt that nothing good would come next. Then she heard Jiang Yin say, slowly, "Just consider me being bored and feeling charitable." Yun Yin. After all, it's more fun when your wings are a bit stronger, isn't it? Jiang Yin's tone shifted. Yun Yin pressed her lips together. Pervert. Jiang Yin deliberately ignored the emotions in her eyes, chuckling softly. Regardless of the purpose, I have helped you. Shouldn't you show some appreciation? Yun Yin saw the amusement in his eyes and suppressed her irritation. Huang Jifa isn't stupid. He might not necessarily fall into the trap. Besides, if you string him along, will he just let it go? As you said, Huang Jifa isn't stupid. So do you really think he can't figure it out? He knows he might be doing something in vain, but in the end, he'll want to take a gamble to see if there's a chance to squeeze into the inner circle. Sometimes, that's how business is. You can never be sure if an opportunity will suddenly fall into your lap until the very last step. Jiang Yin's tone was leisurely, but his words were chilling. As for your worry that Huang Jifa won't let it go, he sneered. What if he doesn't want to? Besides, even if he suffers a loss this time, he'll feel that at least he's shown face in front of me. Does he dare to easily offend a resource like me? Every word Jiang Yin spoke was realistic and cruel. Although Yun Yin understood that he was right, she still felt deeply suffocated. Power was a pyramid with ascending layers. Jiang Yin was at the top of the pyramid, while she, Yuan Zhou, and the Yu family were all living at the bottom, at someone else's mercy. I wasn't worried. Yun Yin only realized after a while, and explained. Jiang Yin appeared leisurely, a knowing smile hidden in his eyes. He didn't speak, simply watching her with calm composure. Yun Yin felt completely uncomfortable under his gaze. At first, she thought it was because of what she had just said, but she quickly realized it wasn't. Jiang Yin seemed to be deliberately waiting. Yun Yin didn't want to express anything. She had come to get a clear answer, and now that she had it, her first thought was to quickly leave the hospital. But then she remembered Jiang Yin's half-serious, half-joking words about wanting to postpone. A chill ran down her spine. Taking a deep breath, Yun Yin slowly stepped forward, sat gently on the edge of the bed, and, gritting her teeth, wrapped her arms around his neck. Her red lips moved closer and placed a kiss on his cheek. Jiang Yin was stunned for a moment. He clearly hadn't expected Yun Yin to take the initiative. Yun Yin wanted to pull away. He grabbed her slender waist, chuckling softly. So perfunctory? Yun Yin knew he was deliberately making things difficult. She suppressed the urge to push him away, then re-wrapped her arms around his neck and offered her red lips again. This time, she kissed his thin lips. They were slightly cool, and his breath was clean. Jiang Yin's eyes darkened. Just as he was about to take the initiative, Yun Yin released her arms. He gazed at her with deep eyes and spoke in a low voice. Becoming more obedient? Yun Yin's heart fluttered, and she held her breath. Young Master Yin doesn't like it? Jiang Yinyan leaned closer to her, his thin lips almost touching. You could be bolder. Yunyan forced herself to be docile, constantly reminding herself that the more obedient a lamb, the faster one gets tired of it. As long as he lost the challenge, she would be one step closer to getting out completely unscathed. However, mere docility might not be effective enough. Being both compliant and capable of causing trouble. That's what would make him get tired of her faster, wouldn't it? She had to take it slowly. Sudden changes would arouse his suspicion. Jiang Yinyan was too suspicious. Acting with such a person, she'd have to be truly convincing. She'd have to act so well that even she believed it to deceive him. She leaned forward slightly, closer to his chest, and whispered, Young Master Yin asked for so much for just a small favor? Jiang Yinyan looked down at her. Otherwise, she smiled faintly. I want more. For example, Old Lu, are you stopping me? I think you've gone stupid from staying in the hospital too long. Before Yunyan could voice her request, a woman's voice, accompanied by the sound of the ward door being pushed open, fell simultaneously. Her scowl tightened. It was Mora. The sound of high heels came straight towards the bedroom. Old Lu's voice sounded anxious. Miss Mora, barging in like this will disturb young Master Yin. Barging in? Ridiculous. Do I need to use that word? Yunyan's heart suddenly lurched. She looked around, but found nowhere to hide. She grabbed Jiang Yinyan, but he showed no sign of nervousness at all, watching her with relaxed composure. He seemed to want to watch her make a fool of herself. Just a second before the bedroom door was pushed open, Yinyan immediately stood up, a few steps away from the bedside, and then Mora walked in. She hadn't expected Yunyan to be there. Her steps halted, and she froze. Old Lu followed close behind Mora, and seeing the scene in the bedroom, his expression wasn't very good. He glanced at Jiang Yinyan. Jiang Yinyan's expression remained unchanged, his eyes playful. Miss Mora, Yinyan greeted her proactively, calm and unhurried. Mora was incredibly surprised. Yunyan, why are you here? Yunyan said softly. Young Master Yin informed me to come. Mora was stunned again and looked at Jiang Yinyan. Jiang Yinyan, in turn, watched Yunyan at ease. Yunyan said unflinchingly, Young Master Yin called me here today again because of the engagement break. Although my mind is made up, Young Master Yin is still trying to persuade me. Jiang Yinyan scoffed. She certainly can make things up. But Mora felt empathetic. She stepped forward and gently took Yunyan's hand, asking softly, Then let me ask you again, do you truly not like Jiangze anymore? I heard that your relationship was actually quite good before. The curve of Jiang Yinyan's lips stiffened slightly. Yunyan was facing Jiang Yinyan, so a slight lift of her eyes allowed her to see his expression. Seeing the change in his demeanor, she was secretly pleased. Still want to watch the show, huh? If you won't save me, I'll save myself, all right? She said, no matter how good the relationship was, it's in the past. I have no fate with the Jiang family, and just want to end this relationship as soon as possible. But young Master Yin is overbearing. He's wholeheartedly acting as an advocate for Jiang Ze. Mora sighed, turning to look at Jiang Yinyan. Why must you force her? It wouldn't sound good if word got out, would it? Jiang Yinyan said nothing, continuing to look at Yunyan. Mora turned back to Yunyan, her tone softening. You must believe that I am absolutely on your side. Although you and Jiang Ze can make a perfect match, a forced melon isn't sweet. She leaned closer to Yunyan and lowered her voice. Don't worry, I'll handle Jiang Yinyan's persuasion. All right, then I'll trouble Miss Mora. No need to be so polite. Mora gently shook her hand. Actually, I have a way that can put an end to... She deliberately looked at Jiang Yinyan and said loudly, the Jiang family's intentions. Yunyan was curious. What? A friend of mine, don't misunderstand, just a friend. He has very high standards and doesn't usually take a liking to ordinary girls. Mora smiled as she sized up Yunyan. I'll introduce you to him another day. He's very handsome and a particularly good match for you. Yunyan made a sound of surprise. She hadn't expected this. Mora said, I also heard that the old madam particularly likes you and has consistently refused to agree to break off the engagement. The way to quickly get out of the arranged marriage is for you to quickly get into a relationship, ideally one leading to marriage. Then the Jiang family surely can't forcibly break up a couple, right? Don't worry. The men I can introduce you to are definitely not ordinary. I happen to have a photo of him. You can see it first. Nonsense. Jiang Yinyan interrupted Mora coldly. Mora wasn't afraid of Jiang Yinyan. She turned and looked at him proudly. How am I being nonsensical? Yunyan doesn't want to marry. Are you just going to keep forcing her? Since I've decided to be friends with Yunyan, I definitely have to be responsible for her happiness. Jiang Yinyan's expression turned cold. Yunyan's heart began to pound, feeling it was best not to continue provoking Jiang Yinyan. She gently tugged Mora. I appreciate your kindness, but I don't want to be in a relationship right now. Mora, are you looking for me for something? Jiang Yinyan asked. Mora smiled. Do I have to have something to see you? My fiancé is injured and hospitalized. Can I come to the hospital to show my love? Yunyin seized the opportunity to immediately say she was busy and left, deliberately ignoring Jiang Yunyin's subtly darkening expression. Mora quickly stopped Yunyin again, insisting that she meet her so-called friend. Yunyin was eager to leave, so she could only perfunctorily reply, all right. It's a promise. I'll let you know once I've made the arrangements. Mora looked quite happy. Yunyin walked straight ahead, so she didn't notice Jiang Yunyin's increasingly gloomy gaze. After leaving the hospital, Yunyin breathed a long sigh of relief, feeling guilty at the same time. Regardless of whether Mora knew about her relationship with Jiang Yunyin, and no matter how unspeakable her current relationship with Jiang Yunyin was, she always felt a sense of shame in front of Mora, as if she owed her. Jiang Yunyin didn't contact her again. Before leaving the hospital, old Lu revealed to Yunyin that young Master Yin wanted to be discharged. Yunyin was surprised, wondering if he was recovering so quickly after being stabbed so thoroughly. Old Lu said, young Master Yin thinks that injuries that aren't life-threatening can be nursed at home. He's too restricted in the hospital. What did he mean by too restricted? Young Master Yin doesn't like uninvited guests, and sometimes hospitals can't prevent such things. Yunyin immediately thought of herself. But old Lu saw through her thoughts and said, young Master Yin won't mind such things with Miss Yu, but that doesn't mean he'll allow others to do the same. Yunyin hesitated. Do you mean, Miss Mora? Old Lu smiled without speaking. He was a smart man, and smart men always speak half and conceal half. Yunyin was also a smart person, so she understood the unspoken part. She had doubts in her heart. She actually hoped she was wrong, because she always saw Mora as hope, thinking that if the Jiang family and Mora's family formally got engaged, it would happen soon. This way, Jiang Yunyin's desire to control her would be constrained. As the son-in-law of the Mora family, he couldn't be caught by outsiders with a blemish on his character. Yunyin's calculations were clear. The problem lay in Jiang Yunyin's attitude. At least for now, Yunyin hadn't found any indication that Jiang Yunyin wanted to break off their relationship. Just as Yunyin was worried, Si Tinji appeared. After contacting Yunyin several times and being rejected, Si Tinji chose to take the initiative. Yunyin ordered some items from the supermarket, left a mailing address for the staff, and then went to a coffee shop. Just as she took a sip of coffee to relax, a man sat opposite her. It was Si Tinji. If Yunyin hadn't seen Si Tinji's photo before, it would have been impossible to imagine his appearance by associating him with Si Tingyuan's looks. Si Tinji was the adopted son of the Si family, said to be the descendant of a deceased business partner of old Mr. Si. It wasn't that Si Tinji was ugly. On the contrary, he was quite handsome. However, his handsomeness was completely different from Si Tingyuan's. Si Tinji's eyes were more mischievous when he smiled, seemingly playful, but with a sharp gaze. Seeing Yunyin looking at him, Si Tinji smiled, formally introduced himself, and then said, Miss Yu is very busy, so I came uninvited. I hope Miss Yu will forgive me. Yunyin wasn't surprised or alarmed, and said softly, Mr. C's uninvited visit indeed caught me off guard. Si Tinji smiled, I'm sorry for the offense. Yunyin nodded slightly and asked him, I wonder, Mr. C, why are you looking for me? Today, seeing Miss Yu, I'll be straightforward. I heard that Miss Yu and my elder brother have initially reached a cooperation agreement. The continued cooperation between the Yu family and the C family is something both families wish to see. Yunyin said subtly, Mr. C flatters me. At most, I only played a connecting role. The specific cooperation matters still depend on my younger brother, Ajo. Si Tinji nodded. Mr. Yu's business acumen has truly inherited the essence of old Mr. Yu. With Mr. Yu overseeing the cooperation between the two families, there should be no worries, but Yunyin looked at Si Tinji, thinking, finally, your but has arrived. Si Tinji met her gaze. The reason Miss Yu dares to act as a go-between is that you have great confidence in your team. But has Miss Yu ever considered what would happen to the cooperation between the two families if the team ran into problems? Yunyin said calmly, I don't understand what Mr. C means. Si Tinji smiled slightly, took a document from his bag, placed it on the table, and pushed it towards Yunyin. What Yunyin first saw was Si Tinji's well-defined hand, which, like Si Tingyuan's, was very fair. Yunyin took the document, opened it, and after reading a few lines, she froze. Si Tinji watched Yunyin unhurriedly, a slight smile on his lips. Yunyin finished reading and finally looked up from the document. Mr. C's information. After all, it involves the C family's business. So Miss Yu, don't blame me for being cautious. Yunyin nodded. There are no small matters when it comes to cooperation. I will thoroughly investigate the issues mentioned in the document with my younger brother. She thought for a moment and then asked, I wonder if Mr. C knows about this? He's not aware of it yet, Si Tinji said. To be honest, The cooperation with the Yu family is a very small project under his purview, and I wasn't even paying attention to it originally. But I heard that Miss Yu personally facilitated it, which made me curious, and I didn't expect to find problems. Yunyan looked at him. Why did Mr. C become curious when he heard that I facilitated the project? Si Tinji's eyes twinkled with a smile, making him particularly charming. Yunyan had a faint premonition. She heard Si Tinji say, "Before, I only knew that Miss Yu had a captivating beauty, but I didn't expect Miss Yu to also be well-versed in business. So how could I not be curious?" Yunyan politely replied, "Mr. C overpraises me. My small abilities are not worth mentioning in front of Mr. C." Si Tinji's gaze at her held other meanings. "I heard Miss Yu broke off her engagement with the Jiang family?" Yunyan remained unperturbed. "I'm sorry, Mr. C. That's a private matter. You see, let's talk about the cooperation again." Si Tinji chuckled, and indeed didn't continue the private topic. He said, "The Yu and C families are old partners. Logically, I shouldn't be suspicious, but now that problems have emerged, it indeed affects the subsequent cooperation. Additionally, this cooperation is overseen by my elder brother. Once the Yu family's team genuinely has problems, he will inevitably be criticized by the board of directors, and those directors will use this opportunity to challenge him. So, Mr. C is doing this to ensure Mr. C's position as head of the family? Otherwise." Si Tinji smiled very sincerely. Yunyan pursed her lips slightly. "Brotherly harmony. The C family has a good family tradition. I know there are some rumors circulating about my elder brother and me," Si Tinji said softly. "But actually, these insignificant things aren't important to my elder brother and me, so we've always been too lazy to explain." Yunyan nodded, enlightened, "So that's it." Then she asked Si Tinji, "I wonder, Mr. C, regarding this matter." She reached out and patted the document. "Do you have any clear guidance?" "Yes," Si Tinji said without hesitation. "Firstly, this person Jiang Cheng cannot be used. To be frank, Miss Yu, regardless of Jiang Cheng's original intention, the C family would not dare to use such a person." Yunyan didn't interrupt, waiting for him to continue. "So, I can recommend someone to Miss Yu. With his ability, he can completely lead a team," Si Tinji said. Yunyan was slightly surprised. "Is Mr. C implying something?" "I just hope to facilitate the cooperation between the C family and the Yu family." Si Tinji said this very sincerely. "This person's ability is unquestionable, but he has always worked alone before. How can Mr. C be so sure of his ability to lead a team if he has always worked alone?" Yunyan questioned. Si Tinji was calm. "For a creative team, the capable one leads. As long as he has the ability to convince the team members, then he can lead the entire team. It's simply a matter of giving him an opportunity." Yunyan was quite curious and asked him who it was. Si Tinji thought for a moment, then suddenly asked, "Is it convenient to add Miss Yu's contact information?" Yunyan raised an eyebrow slightly. "Oh, it's like this. I want to send you some information," Si Tinji explained softly. Yunyan nodded, and they exchanged contact information. Soon, Si Tinji sent her several photos, all of them of jewels. Clicking on one, it was beautifully designed. Clicking on the others, they were all jewelry design sketches. "Are these the works of that designer?" Yunyan asked. Si Tinji nodded. "How do you feel about them, Miss Yu?" "Very professional, and quite original," Yunyan commented, then smiled and said, "Of course, I'm an outsider in the professional field. The Yu family's connoisseurship has always been an industry benchmark, so Miss Yu's judgment can't be wrong." Si Tinji looked at her with a smile. Yunyan smiled without speaking. Si Tinji then sent Yunyan the designer's introduction and said, "If Miss Yu is interested, I can bring him to see you. Of course, for more about his work, I suggest you communicate face-to-face." Yunyan pondered for a moment. A designer should naturally be met in person. "Before that, I'll discuss this matter with my younger brother. At least regarding Jiang Cheng, I need to give the C family an explanation. There needs to be an explanation, but investigating this matter won't be resolved in a day or two, which is why I suggested replacing him with another designer. This way, it won't affect the progress of the cooperation between the Yu family and the C family," Si Tinji said. "Mr. C is thoughtful, but it's still better to inform Mr. C about this matter." "Yes," Si Tinji said. "I don't think my elder brother will object, as it benefits the cooperation, and he would do the same." Yunyan looked at Si Tinji, and, after a short while, she smiled and said, "Mr. C has been of great help this time. To be honest, I don't quite understand your original intention, as it was the Yu family's team that had the problem." "Actually, that wasn't my original intention," Si Tinji said. Yunyan was stunned. Si Tinji extended a finger and lightly tapped the document twice. "Initially, I just wanted to remind Miss Yu about the design team's problem. I didn't come with the intention of necessarily cooperating." Then the designer, Mr. C, mentioned. "That was out of my own selfish motives." Si Tinji leaned back. I wanted to facilitate the quick cooperation between the U family and the C family, so I introduced this designer to Miss Yu. I don't know if it will be a permanent solution, but one thing is certain. It won't leave Miss Yu without a choice in the end. Yunyan looked at him. So, what Mr. C wants to express is, a gentle lady is a good match for a gentleman. I admire Miss Yu, and facilitating the cooperation quickly can be considered borrowing flowers to offer to the Buddha, C. Tinji said clearly, word for word. Yunyan smiled upon hearing this. Admire me? Mr. C is joking. C. Tinji also smiled. Does Miss Yu find him amusing? Yes. What? Yunyan said, I never believed in love at first sight, especially in our circle, where interactions between people are measured by benefits. I admit, and before meeting Miss Yu, I also didn't believe in love at first sight, C. Tinji said softly. But this situation just happened to me. I fell in love with Miss Yu at first sight and was captivated at second sight. Love between a man and a woman is inherently strange. Love arises unknowingly and deepens over time, which is normal. Second sight. Yunyan picked out the keyword. C. Tinji smiled slightly. This is my second meeting with Miss Yu. We met before at a friend's gathering, a fleeting encounter. I had to leave for an urgent matter, and Miss Yu happened to arrive. A quick glance, and it was unforgettable. Yunyan said, oh, but she couldn't recall which time it was. When the Yu family was prosperous, she attended countless large and small banquets. Mr. C, let's talk about cooperation again. Yunyan remained unmoved. We will give the C family an explanation about the designer as soon as possible. As for the backup designer, I will also discuss it thoroughly with my younger brother. Like Mr. C, I also really want to facilitate the cooperation between the C family and the Yu family as soon as possible, as it has been a collaboration since our father generation, and there are no problems with either integrity or compatibility. C. Tinji nodded slightly and said, good. Then he looked at Yunyan with a smile. But is my confession so bad that Miss Yu is indifferent? Or, he paused, then said, are there too many men pursuing Miss Yu? But I consider my conditions to be quite good. Yunyan said, Mr. C's conditions are naturally good. Many famous ladies in the circle are eager for you, Mr. C. But if matters of the heart are left to chance, it's purely a matter of fate. I don't think Mr. C and I have that fate. How will you know without trying? C. Tinji said softly. Since Miss Yu is no longer considering marrying Jiang Zhe, why not consider someone else? For example, me. Yunyan chuckled and asked pointedly, does Mr. C not need a commercial marriage? Just finding a partner based on your own preferences? That's unrealistic, isn't it? Especially when C. Tingyuan had just taken over the C family's power. If C. Tinji didn't assert himself forcefully, he would definitely be suppressed by C. Tingyuan in the future. Yunyan never believed in such a thing as brotherly harmony. Jiang Cheng was found to be playing both sides. His professional capabilities were not in question, but his moral character was flawed. Once one's moral character is compromised, cooperation is as good as dead. Therefore, regardless of C. Tinji's motives, the conclusion that Jiang Cheng had a significant impact on the cooperation between the two families was correct. Either the cooperation would be cancelled, or someone capable of replacing Jiang Cheng would need to be found quickly. However, the latter task was for the Yu family to undertake, not for the C family to provide a person for. I'm thinking about C. Tinji's objective. It's suspicious for him to send someone over out of the blue. Yunyan told Yu Wanzhou about C. Tinji, including the designer's information and the textual introduction C. Tinji later sent her. Yu Wanzhou's attitude was clear. There's definitely nothing wrong with Jiang Cheng. My only fear is that he's being used as a pawn. Yu Wanzhou had been with his team almost constantly recently. If his understanding of the team situation before was a 7 out of 10, now it was a perfect 10. So, if Jiang Cheng had even the slightest problem, there's no way he wouldn't know. Yunyan mused. C. Tinji's ostensible excuse is naturally untrustworthy. Regardless of this person's workability, he's someone C. Tinji recommended. No matter how close his relationship with C. Tinji is, he's still considered a C family person. Once he joins the team, it effectively means the C family is indirectly controlling the Yu family's team. Yu Wanzhou naturally understood the stakes involved. After a long pause, he said, the current problem is that this is likely the C family stance. It's highly unlikely that C. Tingyuan is unaware of this, but allowing C. Tinji to bring someone over suggests C. Tingyuan's tacit approval, just as we analyzed earlier. So C. Tingyuan is playing a long game, Yunyan said. Regardless of intent, Jiang Cheng and his team would definitely have problems. They had anticipated this early on. However, they hadn't expected C. Tinji to be so brazen, first finding evidence of Jiang Cheng being in Chao's camp but with Han's heart, then swiftly finding someone to replace Jiang Cheng. His actions were quick and direct. According to Yunyan's analysis, this was no simple personnel change. C. Tingyuan was a man of deep thought. and Si Tinji's every move must have been within his sight. Yet he didn't stop it. Firstly, he did intend for the Si family's people to swallow the Yu family's team. Secondly, he was luring Si Tinji into a trap, with the key person being that designer. Who was he truly working for? Si Tinji was a gambler. He wouldn't be unaware of Si Tingyuan's intentions, so acting this way likely meant he was willing to take a gamble. He was willing to enter the game, and the situation after entering would surely be a bloody storm. And the Yu family? They were clearly at a crossroads. Jiang Cheng was the team leader, and Si Tinji had seized upon his flaws with a mix of truth and falsehood. But in commercial warfare, the Jiang Cheng incident itself was no longer important. What mattered was that he was about to be sacrificed and passed over. Once the Yu family acknowledged this incident, they would either cease cooperation or accept Si Tinji's suggestion. The former would completely cripple the jewelry project. The latter would mean losing the Yu family's initiative. Unable to advance and unable to retreat, they could only linger at the crossroads in distress. Evidently, the Si family's power struggle began with the Yu family project, making the Yu family the center of the conflict between the two Si brothers. Yuanzhou sneered, "The Si family's wishful thinking is still a bit off." Seeing Yu Zhuanzhou's reaction, Yunyan understood perfectly. They couldn't become tools in a struggle, nor could they lose their initiative for the sake of fostering cooperation. Once this resolve was firm, the next step was to break the deadlock, at least not to be led by the nose by the Si family. Just as Yunyan and Yuanzhou were busy with Jiang Cheng's matter, Mrs. Huang arrived. Her excuse was a trip to Beishur, but in reality, as Yunyan had previously judged, she came to deter the mistress. Huang Jifa personally went to pick her up, reportedly with a large bouquet of fresh flowers, and then took Mrs. Huang shopping at luxury stores. The next day, Yunyan met Mrs. Huang. It was Mrs. Huang who initiated the meeting, which Yunyan hadn't expected. Yunyan had originally planned to take the initiative but had hesitated, wondering if Mrs. Huang would still grant the Yu family face, given how much things had changed. Moreover, people who once felt a psychological gap, once they become rich and powerful, might most want to sever ties with their past. Mrs. Huang was very enthusiastic towards Yunyan. Yunyan had intended to invite Mrs. Huang to a tea house or a quiet club, but Mrs. Huang asked, "Is it convenient to go to your place?" Yunyan personally picked up Mrs. Huang, and what surprised her again was that Mrs. Huang's attire wasn't ostentatiously luxurious. Unlike those wealthy wives who, having gained riches through their husbands, seemed to want to drape themselves in all their treasures. Mrs. Huang wore a dark green Shangyun silk qipao. Already fair-skinned, the color accentuated her delicate complexion even further. With her gentle eyes and slightly curved lips, she looked like a woman stepping out of a painting from Jiangnan. The more Yunyan saw Mrs. Huang, the stronger her feeling became that, purely based on appearance, Huang Jifa was unworthy of Mrs. Huang. Mrs. Huang was very warm and sincere when she met Yunyan. She gently embraced Yunyan and said, "It must be very difficult now, isn't it?" Yunyan's heart was gently touched, and an indescribable emotion slowly grew within her. Since the Yu family's misfortune, she had heard countless words, but only Mrs. Huang's "it must be very difficult now" felt truly heartfelt, without the slightest hint of sarcasm or schadenfreude. She invited Mrs. Huang to sit, brewed tea, and serve refreshments. Mrs. Huang didn't act coy in front of Yunyan. After washing her hands, she tasted the snacks and softly said, "So many years have passed, and I can still remember the skill of the Yu family's pastry chef. You couldn't find anything like it outside." Yes, before the Yu family had trouble, all the servants in the mansion were properly settled. The pastry chef Mrs. Huang mentioned had been ill before and was later taken in by her children for recuperation and stopped working. Mrs. Huang sighed regretfully. "I'll never taste such good craftsmanship again." She then looked around and softly said, "If you weren't born into wealth, this house alone would be what many people aspire to. But you're a girl who grew up with a silver spoon. How could you have suffered the hardships of the world?" Yunyan chuckled. "Mrs. Huang, some things in this world are predestined. How much blessing one can enjoy determines how much hardship one can endure. I feel fine now. Perhaps I've gotten used to it. The hardest time was when a Yu family first had trouble. Now, although Zhou and I are still facing difficulties, we have hope in our hearts and don't feel it's bitter anymore." Mrs. Huang said with emotion. When the Yu family ran into trouble back then, the Huang family also happened to be undergoing industrial restructuring and equity changes. From the company to the home, it was a mess. We truly couldn't help it all. I feel bad for only coming to see you now. What are you saying, Mrs. Huang? The Huang family always maintained a trusting attitude during our cooperation with the Yu family back then, and for that, we are already very grateful, Yunyan said sincerely. Regardless of Huang Jifa, Mrs. Huang herself was quite genuine. The two continued to chat about the past. Mrs. Huang was a nostalgic person, So whenever she spoke of the Yu family's glory, she would sigh with emotion, and she also brought up that past banquet. Your mother, I will truly thank her for a lifetime. At that banquet, she looked after my feelings and made everyone present look at me with higher regard. I still remember that, Mrs. Huang sighed. Yunyan smiled slightly. Mrs. Huang, your mention of that banquet just reminded me of something. Please wait a moment. Mrs. Huang was puzzled. Yunyan got up and went into the study, quickly returning with a white satin embroidered box in her hand. Just the box alone was exquisitely crafted, especially the embroidery, which was clearly handmade, stitch by stitch, not the machine embroidery commonly seen on the market. It was a white-based embroidered box, yet it managed to depict jasmine flowers on the same white background. Both were white, yet the jasmine flowers seemed to float above the embroidered box, incredibly lifelike. Seeing it was for her, Mrs. Huang was very surprised and asked Yunyan, "What is this?" Mrs. Huang, "Please open it and see," Yunyan said softly. Mrs. Huang looked curious, gently opened the embroidered box, and with just one glance, her eyes widened in astonishment. This bangle. Does it look familiar, Mrs. Huang? Yunyan smiled. Mrs. Huang looked quite excited. Of course. Isn't this the new product that Mrs. Yu left behind? A natural shape bangle made entirely of mutton fat jade? Yunyan leaned closer to Mrs. Huang and gently took her hand. Mrs. Huang, still puzzled, watched as Yunyan placed the bangle from the brocade box onto her wrist. It fits perfectly, just right. Yunyan was quite happy. Do you like it, Mrs. Huang? Mrs. Huang was surprised. Is it for me? Of course. This won't do, absolutely not. Mrs. Huang said, already trying to take the bangle off, and in her haste, she reddened her wrist. Yunyan stopped her and softly said, this bangle actually wanted to be given to you a long time ago, but then too many things happened to the Yu family, and the matter was put on hold. Mrs. Huang was even more surprised. Wanted to give it to me a long time ago. Yes, actually, it was my mother's intention. Mrs. Huang's eyes widened in astonishment. Mrs. Yu? Yunyan nodded. My mother said back then that Mrs. Huang is a low-key person, unlike other ladies who prefer gold jewelry. She also felt that Mrs. Huang had a transcendent temperament, more suited to jade. The Yu family made a lot of jewelry, but only this natural-shaped jade bangle was most suitable for Mrs. Huang. So, she always intended to give the bangle to Mrs. Huang, but unforeseen circumstances led to delay after delay, until now. Mrs. Huang's eyes trembled slightly. After a long while, she looked at the bangle and murmured, I never thought Mrs. Yu was still thinking of me. When the Yu family ran into trouble, I couldn't help much. I truly feel ashamed. Yunyan smiled. As I said, it's not easy for anyone these days. The Huang family was preoccupied with its own affairs back then. Our Yu family never held any grudges. Mrs. Huang was incredibly moved, but she still refused to accept the bangle. She said frankly that the Yu family urgently needed money, and she absolutely couldn't accept such a valuable gift. If she were to accept it, she would have to pay according to its market valuation. This is the Yu family's effort. I can't take it for free. Yunyan politely declined with a smile. Mrs. Huang, this is my mother's wish. If she said it's a gift, then it's a gift. There's no reason to accept money. Gold has a price, but jade is priceless. In my mother's heart, Mrs. Huang has a special temperament, and this jade bangle is destined to belong to Mrs. Huang. She gently took Mrs. Huang's hand, the one wearing the jade bangle, and said, Mother's taste is quite good. You see, it fits you perfectly, the size is just right, as if it were custom-made for you. Mrs. Huang sighed softly. Miss Yu, we are both practical people, so let's speak plainly. In the past, I would have accepted it without a second thought. But given the Yu family's current situation, I cannot take advantage like this. Actually, it's not taking advantage. Yunyan saw the timing was right and led the conversation to the main topic. The Yu family is now actively looking to cooperate with the Huang family. Once our two families reach a cooperation agreement again, Mrs. Huang won't need to feel embarrassed about accepting this bangle. Consider it a cooperation gift. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Huang was greatly surprised. Is it still about the factory cooperation? Yes, Yunyan said with a smile in her eyes. Mrs. Huang beamed with joy, clapping her hands. That's wonderful. Cooperating with the Yu family again is something I've always wished for. She clasped Yunyan's hand in return and said sincerely, Actually, my visit this time was partly for personal matters, and partly because I really wanted to chat with you and your brother. Mrs. Yu was kind to me, and I'm always grateful to her. So, if you need me at this time, you can speak up anytime. Although my abilities are limited, I can still make decisions on some matters. Yunyan softly said, the general cooperation should actually be fine. Although Mr. Huang is still hesitant about cooperating with the Yu family, I can understand. After all, the Yu family's current situation is quite awkward, and Mr. Huang is a businessman, so being cautious is normal. Mrs. Huang snorted. He just got a little power in his hands and started to get carried away. What else is there to consider about factory cooperation? Our two families have cooperated before, and the Yu family always paid the Huang family every penny they owed. How many of his clients can do that? They all just collect money at the end of the year, acting like grandsons every time they collect money. Mrs. Huang was full of complaints when this topic came up. Yunyan was very adept at controlling the rhythm of the conversation and knew exactly where to hit the nail on the head. She said, Mr. Huang also came to see Zhou and me 2 days ago to discuss the factory cooperation. Everything is actually fine. Mr. Huang is dedicated to the future of the Huang family. But honestly, cooperation is a mutual agreement. There are some conditions we cannot accept, and we would rather not cooperate. At this point, she softly added, Of course, Mrs. Huang, even if our two families don't reach an agreement, it's fine. This bangle is my way of fulfilling my mother's wish. You absolutely must accept it, otherwise I don't know how I'll explain it to my mother. Mrs. Huang was also a smart woman. Hearing the implied meaning in Yunyan's words, she immediately asked, Did Huang Jifa make some harsh demands? Yunyan lowered her gaze and whispered, Since Mrs. Huang asked, I won't conceal it. Mr. Huang hopes that I can come forward to attract a project, but Mrs. Huang, you also know, isn't that asking me to sell myself? Although the Yu family has fallen on hard times, it doesn't mean the Yu family's people are cheap. Mrs. Huang immediately became angry upon hearing this. What? Huang Jifa has grown bold, hasn't he? He even dares to have such thoughts. I think he's tired of living. Mrs. Huang wasn't exaggerating. Yunyan had initially thought of finding Mrs. Huang, mainly because of her influential background. Her powerful family was the source of Mrs. Huang's confidence, and no matter how much of a fool Huang Jifa made of himself, he didn't dare show the slightest disrespect in front of her. The fundamental reason was that Mrs. Huang held shares in the company, second only to the amount held by Huang Jifa himself. Yunyan had heard this from her mother back then. Her mother said that Mrs. Huang had conditions for being a full-time housewife. She had to hold company shares, and if Huang Jifa ever had an affair or initiated a divorce, he would be stripped of his entire fortune. The reason Huang Jifa had agreed to this was mainly because his success was inseparable from the support and resources of Mrs. Huang's family. And the reason Yunyan brought up the factory was that it was actually Mrs. Huang's family's property, which was later incorporated into the company's projects. So, if Mrs. Huang wanted to intervene in the matter of the factory, Huang Jifa's objections would be useless. On this point, Yunyan was farsighted. Jiang Yunyan had set the stage for Huang Jifa to perform, and Huang Jifa had taken a bait. Although their meeting a couple of days ago didn't end in an agreement, Huang Jifa wouldn't give up so easily. Yunyan could guess what Huang Jifa would do next. So how could she guarantee the long-term interests of the Yu family? Mrs. Huang was their trump card. Yunyan said, Won't this cause a misunderstanding between you and Mr. Huang? Mrs. Huang smiled and waved her hand. The factory is my family's property, and he's well aware of that. I have the right to know who the factory cooperates with. He has to agree even if he doesn't want to. Don't worry. Yunyan took Mrs. Huang's hand and said, Mrs. Huang, I don't know how to thank you. Mrs. Huang sighed softly. Are you still being so formal with me? As she spoke, her gaze fell on her wrist, gesturing slightly. You've already given me such a precious gift. It wouldn't be right of me not to help you with this urgent matter. One can't be like that. Yunyan smiled faintly. Mrs. Huang, you misunderstand. This gift was for my mother. Mrs. Huang looked at her, her gaze sincere. Actually, I know what you're thinking. You gave me this bracelet specifically for the factory matter, didn't you? Hearing this, Yunyan wasn't the least bit surprised, nor did she feel any embarrassment of being found out. She just smiled and said, You're right, I did do it for the factory. Although I only found the bracelet later, it is indeed the one my mother wanted to give you back then. Mother said you glanced at it a few times, which meant you liked it very much. And secondly, she felt your disposition was a perfect match for this bracelet. In fact, Yunyan's mother had indeed said something like that, but the original words were, Whose business isn't built from the ground up. I despise people who treat others differently based on their status. Mrs. Huang glanced at this bracelet a few times today. You could tell she genuinely liked it. If it were the other ladies, they would have long since asked me for it or offered to buy it. The Huang family's business isn't large, so she can't compare with the other ladies. When she comes across something she likes, she's too embarrassed to speak up, perhaps afraid of the others' gossip. If we invite Mrs. Huang again next time, we'll give this bracelet to her. At the time, Yunyan had even laughed and said her mother was too generous. The bracelet was quite valuable, and she was just giving away like that. Her mother had smiled and said, How many precious treasures can one person wear at a time? It's not about having many treasures, but about having the ones you truly like. Besides, if people place too much importance on these treasures, they can easily lose them. They are worldly possessions. It's enough to have what suits you. Any more is just a burden. Yunyan knew her mother wanted to give Mrs. Huang this bracelet entirely to slap the faces of those other ladies. Her mother had high principles and couldn't stand their profit-seeking, sycophantic behavior. Her mother often said, "If it weren't for your father, do you think those ladies would be so respectful to me?" This circle is very pragmatic, or rather, society itself is very pragmatic. People only see the halo around a person and like to flock to those with halos. It's understandable. The world is bustling with people, all for the sake of profit. So, Yunyan's mention of her disposition, and so on was purely her own embellishment. Mrs. Huang was moved by these words, and for a moment, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. After a short while, she composed herself and said, "Although your mother and I didn't meet many times, we hit it off right away. To me, your mother was a kindred spirit, a rare friend I could talk to about anything." Yunyan said softly, "My mother had the same impression of you." Mrs. Huang sighed. After a long pause, she looked at Yunyan. "I know my request might be inappropriate, but Nian," she had changed how she addressed her, using her first name. "Actually, the main reason I came this time was to see your mother. I wonder if it would be convenient to see her now." Yunyan lowered her eyes, silent. Seeing this, Mrs. Huang said softly, "I know your mother's current condition isn't suitable for receiving guests. I just want to see her, even if it's just a glance from a distance." Yunyan mulled it over for a moment, then nodded lightly. "All right, I'll arrange it." Xiaomin drank too much at the celebration banquet. A charity gala she had spearheaded over the past 6 months had been a great success. The invited guests were all big shots in the industry, and everyone had shown Xiaomin great respect by attending. Tonight, at the celebration banquet, Xiaomin got carried away and drank too much. The banquet was held at a private club in the suburbs of Beishur. The environment was elegant and quiet, and the attendees were all either rich or noble. The drinking went on late into the night. By the time the party broke up, Xiaomin's face was flushed, and she was being helped into a car by a third-generation heir. This heir came from a wealthy family, had grown up abroad, and returned to the country to inherit the family business after completing his studies. Of course, inheriting a family business smoothly wasn't a simple matter, so his main reason for attending the banquet was to network and exchange resources. Although Xiaomin was dizzy from drinking, she could sense something was wrong. She pushed at the man beside her, trying to open the door and get out. The heir grabbed her and said with a smile, "How about I take you somewhere else for a drink?" Xiaomin waved her hand drunkenly. "No more. I'm not drinking anymore. I want to go home. I want to sleep." The heir leaned over her and said, "All right, I'll take you home. Don't you want to sleep? How about we do it together?" Xiaomin shoved him. Who are you? Get away from me. Where do you think you're going, drunk as you are?" Filled with lust, the heir pulled her into his arms, refusing to let go. "Don't you want some company? Big brother will keep you company." He was about to kiss her as he spoke. Someone knocked on the car window 3 times, tap, 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 quite impatiently. Annoyed, the heir ignored it, intending to continue taking advantage of her. But the person outside had no intention of leaving and knocked on the window again, accompanied by a cold shout, "Open the door!" This thoroughly infuriated the man in the car. He angrily rolled down the window, and as soon as half his face was visible, he started to curse, "You fucking..." Before he could finish his curse, someone grabbed him by the collar and yanked him forcefully outwards. The heir was nearly choked, with more than half his body pulled out of the window. He clung tightly to the window frame with both hands, begging for mercy. Don't. We can talk this out, we can talk." "Can you open the door now?" the person outside asked coolly. Yes, I can. Let go." Once the person let go, the car door was opened. It was open from the other side. The heir got out of the car, and seeing the club's security guards heading their way, he was no longer afraid. He yelled belligerently, "Who the hell are you? Minding other people's business." The newcomer ignored him, instead opening the car door on that side, leaning in, and lifting Xiaomin out. Xiaomin groggily opened her eyes. Her vision was blurry, but no matter how many overlapping images she saw, they were all of the same person's face. She giggled. "Jianzhou, is that you?" Yu Jianzhou grunted in annoyance. Xiaomin's face lit up with a smile, and she proactively wrapped her arms around his neck. "What are you doing here? You're not in this line of work." "Haha, who invited you?" "That's strange. Nobody told me. I had a business dinner here tonight. I just saw off a client," Yu Jianzhou explained earnestly, only to realize it was useless to say such things to a drunk person. As expected, Xiaomin said drunkenly, "Right? Isn't this a social engagement? Why don't we go back inside and have another drink?" Yu Jianzhou ignored her drunken ramblings. Cradling her, he turned to leave. The heir blocked his path. "Who are you to take her away?" He then called to the security guards. "Stop him. Who knows if he's a good guy or a bad guy? If anything happens to anyone here, you'll all be in deep trouble." Just as the guards were about to step forward, Yu Jianzhou said coldly, "I'm her friend. You're letting a pervert go and stopping me instead. Who are you calling a pervert? The heir snapped, angered. Yu Jianzhou's expression was frosty as he stared at him, his gaze like ice. I'm talking about you. Am I wrong? You're the one who forced her into the car, weren't you? What were you trying to do? The heir was arrogant. What was I trying to do? Ridiculous. Miss Chow and I are good friends. I was taking her home. Can't you see she's drunk? Good friends. Yu Jianzhou sneered. Sorry, I've never heard her mention you. With that, he tried to leave again. The heir stepped forward to block his path. So you say you're her friend, and that's that? I highly doubt your motives right now. Are you trying to take advantage of her? Yu Jianzhou found this truly amusing and didn't want to bother with him. But then, Xiao Min chuckled. He's not my friend. The heir was instantly smug. See? Are you still going to argue? Put her down. Yu Jianzhou looked down at Xiao Min in his arms, his lips tightening. You're asking for it. There was a smile in Xiao Min's eyes, her drunken state rather endearing. She tightened her arms around his neck. He's my boyfriend, haha. Yu Jianzhou froze. The heir was also stunned, letting out a drawn-out huh after a long moment. Xiao Min rested her head on Yu Jianzhou's chest and said drunkenly, Jianzhou, I want to go home. Take me home. Looking at her and hearing those words, Yu Jianzhou felt his heart soften for some reason. He replied softly, okay. Seeing this, the heir still wanted to stop them, but he was intimidated by Yu Jianzhou's icy glare. Yet, wanting to save face, he urged the security guards to block Yu Jianzhou. The guards looked troubled. They're a couple, they're dating. How can we interfere with that? The heir was so angry his face was practically contorted. Yu Jianzhou took Xiao Min home. The alcohol must have been hitting her harder, as Xiao Min could barely stand. With no other choice, Yu Jianzhou had to carry her all the way to the elevator. The people who could afford an apartment here were not simple folk. At the very least, they were connected to the world of fame and fortune. So, there was a neighbor returning late, just like them, who recognized Xiao Min. Seeing her being carried into the elevator by a man, the neighbor first gave Yu Jianzhou a good look up and down, then spoke hesitantly. I think I've seen you somewhere before. Not wanting any complications, Yu Jianzhou said, I'm her friend. I come over to her place sometimes, so you might have seen me before. The neighbor said, oh. After a moment, the neighbor asked again, uncertainly, a friend, right? Is Miss Chow all right? Still worried. Yu Jianzhou deflected skillfully. He just hummed an affirmation, said she was fine, just drunk. Seeing the neighbor still staring at him, he asked, otherwise, shall I take her to your place for you to look after? Hearing this, the neighbor gave an awkward laugh. The elevator arrived, and they hastily waved goodbye to Yu Jianzhou. Yu Jianzhou let out a long sigh of relief and looked down at Xiao Min. She was quiet, not making a fuss, which meant she wasn't causing him any trouble. Luckily, Yu Jianzhou knew the code to Xiao Min's door lock, so getting him was a breeze. After settling Xiao Min in bed, he stood by her side, sighing. But before he could fully relax, Xiao Min started to stir. She tried to get out of bed, but hadn't even managed to sit up properly before she fell to the floor. Yu Jianzhou had only been gone for the time it took to pour her a glass of water. When he re-entered the room, he saw a figure crawling on the floor. He shuddered and reached out to turn on the bedroom light. It was Xiao Min. She was practically on all fours as she scrambled into the bathroom, followed by a violent bout of vomiting. Yu Jianzhou figured the glass of water wouldn't be needed. Xiao Min threw up until it felt like she was bringing up last night's dinner. Yu Jianzhou wasn't repulsed. He went into the bathroom, cleaned up, helped her wash her face, and rinse her mouth. When Xiao Min was back in bed, she looked very uncomfortable, her brows furrowed like a crumpled rag. Seeing her like this, Yu Jianzhou knew it wouldn't do. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and call Yunyan. It took a while for Yunyan to pick up, and when she did, her voice was panicked, thinking something had happened to him. This was what Yu Jianzhou had been afraid of. Who wouldn't be alarmed by a phone call so late at night? He quickly said it wasn't him, but Xiao Min, who was drunk. The main reason for his call was to ask how to make a hangover soup. He had drunk Yunyan's hangover soup before when he'd had too much, and he would feel much better soon after drinking it. Yunyan was amazed. Xiao Min's alcohol tolerance was actually quite good. It was rare for her to drink to the point of needing hangover soup. You two, really one after the other. Can't you control your drinking a little? Yunyan grumbled softly. When she learned that Yu Jianzhou had run into Xiao Min because he was also at a business dinner, she asked, what about you? Yu Jianzhou said, I didn't drink much tonight, don't worry. As if she could. Yunyan's immediate impulse was to rush over, but she dismissed the idea after a second thought. She told Yu Jianzhou how to make the hangover soup, adding, if you really don't have the ingredients at home, honey will also work. I remember she has honey in her fridge. Yu Jianzhou replied casually, okay, I know. There's honey. Yunyan smiled to herself. He even knows what's in Xiao Min's house. Yu Jianzhou rarely cooked. By the time he finally managed to make the hangover soup and bring it into the bedroom, Xiao Min was already sitting up. She sat with her knees drawn up, her arms wrapped around them, her face buried in her knees. Xiao Min had never been so enthusiastic. She usually had some physical contact with Yuan Zhou, but never clung to him like this. Yuan Zhou was a normal man. How could he not have any thoughts when he had a soft jade in his arms? What's more, he had also been drinking. When the designated driver was driving, he and Xiao Min sat in the back seat. Along the way, the faint fragrance of the woman and the scent of wine intertwined, drilling into his breath, making him feel even more intoxicated. Now, with Xiao Min hugging him like this, he felt a surge of heat rising from deep within his body, burning him to the point of almost losing control. Yuan Zhou gently pulled her away and softly coaxed, "Drink some hangover soup." Xiao Min shook her head repeatedly, mumbling, "I'm not drunk, not drunk." She blushed easily when she drank, though not as severely as him, but her whole face was flushed. Coupled with her naturally fair skin, it appeared somewhat pink, becoming even pinker from her neck downwards, making her skin appear as delicate as peach blossoms. Yuan Zhou averted his gaze, reached for the hangover soup, and handed it to her. She leaned in, sniffed, frowned, and waved her hand. "What is this?" "It smells awful." Even though she was drunk, something unpalatable remained unpalatable. It wouldn't taste good just because she was drunk. Yuan Zhou sighed. "This is already my best effort. I know mine doesn't taste as good as Yunyan's, but just bear with it for now." Yuan Zhou explained a lot, but as a drunkard, Xiao Min couldn't hear any of it. However, she did hear the name Yunyan. She lowered her face and giggled. Seeing how heavily drunk she was, Yuan Zhou constantly scolded himself for his dirty thoughts earlier. She had no guard against him, and he actually harbored improper thoughts, the most direct kind of improper thoughts. "Come, drink it," Yuan Zhou said softly. Xiao Min hung her head for a while before speaking. "You feed me." Yuan Zhou agreed. At this moment, even if she wanted to drink by herself, he couldn't allow it, lest she spill it all over the bed with a shaky hand. He held the bowl to her lips and fed her spoonful by spoonful. It was indeed unpalatable. Xiao Min frowned with every sip, several times wanting to stop drinking, but being persuaded by Yuan Zhou to drink a little more. After finally drinking most of the bowl, just as Yuan Zhou was about to sigh in relief, Xiao Min stumbled into the bathroom again, throwing up even more thoroughly this time. Yuan Zhou felt a little hurt. Was it really that unpalatable? However, after throwing up, Xiao Min seemed to feel more comfortable. His bowl of hangover soup ultimately became a vomit-inducing soup, which also served a purpose. Xiao Min was in a daze. Although the alcohol hadn't fully worn off, she could somewhat manage herself. She struggled to take a shower. As someone in the fashion industry, she had an iron rule. No matter what, she could never fall asleep immediately. Even when heavily drunk, she had to remember to shower, especially to wash her face. She absolutely could not go to sleep without side dust on her skin. This was Xiao Min's only hygienic obsession, despite not being a germaphobe. Yuan Zhou was afraid something would happen to her in the bathroom, so he didn't dare to stay too far from it. He leaned against the door, waiting. Soon, the sound of the shower came from inside. Yuan Zhou initially felt nothing, but as he listened, an unusual feeling arose in his chest. He remembered Xiao Min's pale, pink neck, straight and slender, connected to perfect collarbones, forming an alluring hollow. His sexy Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Listening to the rushing water inside, the images in his mind were always suggestive. He frowned, trying to dispel these chaotic images from his mind. What was he thinking? She was Yunyan's good friend, her best friend. These thoughts were tainting their friendship. Yuan Zhou returned to the sofa and sat down, feeling so hot that he unbuttoned his shirt and rolled up his sleeves. He poured a glass of water and drank it all in one gulp. His excuse was that he had also been drinking, and Xiao Min's strong alcohol scent was too potent. A normal person would get a little drunk just from smelling it. Plus, he had been busy making hangover soup, and the alcohol had stimulated his blood circulation, so it was excusable to have some chaotic thoughts. There was some hangover soup left in the pot, so Yuan Zhou simply drank it as a hangover cure. But as soon as he took the first sip, he felt incredibly sorry for Xiao Min. He almost couldn't hold it back and spit it out. No wonder Xiao Min kept frowning. It was indeed too unpalatable. How to describe the taste? It was unevenly salty and sweet, with a particularly unpleasant smell, almost like a dark culinary creation. When Xiao Min came out of the shower, much of the alcohol scent had dissipated, replaced by a rich fragrance and a woman's natural body scent. When Yuan Zhou stepped forward to support her, she stumbled and fell into his arms again. Xiao Min had no intention of letting go, as if she had finally found her support, wrapping her arms tightly around his waist and refusing to let go. Yuan Zhou's emotions, which had just barely calmed down, were stirred again. He softly asked her how she was and if she felt uncomfortable anywhere. Xiao Min shook her head in his arms, murmuring, just holding you like this makes me not feel uncomfortable anymore. Where does it hurt? Headache or stomach discomfort? Yuanzhou asked caringly. Xiao Min just shook her head. I'm uncomfortable all over, and my heart is uncomfortable, so let me hug you. Holding you makes it better. Yuanzhou didn't push her away. A subtle, strange feeling crept into his heart, and for a moment, he even indulged in this ticklish sensation. The deeper the night, the more it broke down one's will. After a long while, he gently stroked her back and softly coaxed. Rest early, sleep it off, and you won't feel uncomfortable tomorrow. Xiao Min was probably tired too. She obediently went back to bed with his help. Yuanzhou took the hairdryer to the bedside and dried her hair. After her hair was dry, Xiao Min pulled his arm, not letting him leave. Yuanzhou sat down on the edge of the bed and reassured her that he wouldn't leave, asking her to rest assured. The drunken Xiao Min was a little childish, exhaling a faint scent of wine and insisting on Pinky swearing with him. Yuanzhou, both annoyed and amused, Pinky swore with her. She was satisfied. Yuanzhou thought she would obediently lie down, but instead, she smiled and reached out to cup his face, looking at him with blurry, drunken eyes. I want you to be my boyfriend. Yuanzhou was stunned. Xiao Min looked up at him. Can you? Yuanzhou opened and closed his mouth. Then after a long pause, he softly said, Xiao Min, you're too drunk. Go to bed early. You can't. The light in Xiao Min's eyes gradually dimmed. Her forehead gently rested against his chest, and her voice was forlorn. You don't have me in your heart, so you don't want to be my boyfriend at all. Yuanzhou couldn't say a word. A moment later, Xiao Min looked up at him again and chuckled. I know. You actually like Yin. You like your sister. She's not my sister. Yuanzhou frowned slightly. Xiao Min laughed. Yes, she's not your sister, so you like her. I'm not your sister either, but you only see me as a sister. I'm sorry Xiao Min wrapped her arms around his neck again, her cheek pressed against the hollow of his neck. But what if I like you? I like you so much. Yuanzhou pursed his lips, his jaw slightly tensed. She kept hugging him like that, and he sat upright, his spine straight. Xiao Min's face was buried in his neck, her exhaled breath fragrant and warm. Whether it was this breath or her last few words, he felt his heart was in a chaotic mess. So chaotic that he couldn't make sense of it. After a long time, he gently called out to her, Xiao Min. Xiao Min didn't respond. He looked and realized she had fallen asleep. Yuanzhou was momentarily exasperated, and at the same time, he felt an indescribable sense of loss deep inside. He laid her down on the bed and covered her with a quilt. Yuanzhou glanced at the time. It was quite late. Xiao Min wasn't sleeping very soundly in bed. She would occasionally turn over, her eyebrows sometimes relaxed, sometimes furrowed. Seeing this, Yuanzhou abandoned the idea of resting in the guest room. He went to the bathroom for a quick wash and then returned to the bedroom, lying down on the sofa. He would just make do for the night. Yin's plan for a good night's sleep was disrupted. The temperature had dropped that night, as she had finished her bath early and gone to bed. Just as she was falling asleep, she received a call from Yuanzhou. After the call, Yin began to let her imagination run wild. It was so late, Yuanzhou couldn't possibly leave Xiao Min alone and go home. With both of them having had alcohol, would their relationship move forward? She knew Xiao Min's feelings, although Xiao Min had never expressed them to her. Yin really hoped the two of them would get together. She knew her brother's character very well. He had never been involved in any messy relationships. Yin could even guarantee that Yuanzhou had never been in love. He was very innocent when it came to relationships. As for Xiao Min, her situation was not much different from hers. Both were called loose women by others, but in reality, they had no experience. Yuanzhou's personality was cold, but he was thorough in his actions, while Xiao Min's personality was warm and impulsive. One quiet and one active, they could complement each other perfectly. She always felt that these two were very suitable. However, if the goddess was willing but the king was not interested, when one party in a relationship was unwilling, no matter how anxious onlookers were, it was useless. Thinking about this, she vaguely fell asleep again, having some strange dreams, but not for long. When her phone rang again, she subconsciously checked the time. 2 in the morning. She had only slept for less than half an hour. She thought it was Yuanzhou, wondering if he couldn't handle Xiao Min. Picking up the phone, she saw that it was actually Jiang Yin. Yin felt like going crazy. Calling her at this hour? He was too much. After answering, she didn't speak, first taking a good while to adjust her breathing so that her emotions wouldn't collapse because of this late-night incident. But Jiang Yin's first sentence made Yin's efforts in vain. He asked, not asleep yet? How dare he ask that? Yin was utterly astonished, and her anger surged. She spoke with obvious displeasure. Of course I was asleep. If it weren't for this call, The man on the other end seemed amused, his voice deep and magnetic, perhaps due to the late hour, lacking the daytime intimidation and adding something alluring and tempting. He said, "Generally, if you don't want to be disturbed, you can just turn off your phone, but you're not allowed to turn off your phone." "Why?" "Because I'll look for you anytime."